Hi, my name is Alex Holm, and I teach 4th and 5th grade special education. I teach elementary Common Core content. Again, it's 4th and 5th grade. It's a SDC class. Very specifically, it's a counseling enriched classroom. We are in person this year. So we're in person, and I teach in Alameda Unified School District, so it is a public school district. And my biggest strengths going into clinical practice 4, I would say establishing connections with my students and creating a safe and inclusive learning environment. I teach a lot of SEL. I would say that I have pretty good classroom management skills and strategies. Utilizing PBIS and different behavior intervention strategies to support my students, and then making accommodations and modifications to instruction, materials, and the learning environment to best support my students. I would say that those are probably my biggest strengths going into clinical practice 4. So let's see. So what I know about special education law, I'm going to be honest, I kind of had to go back through some of my past coursework in Alliant and look up some of the assignments that I've done in the past, and was reminded a lot about FAPE and how FAPE came about. So that's mostly what I know. And so FAPE is also known as the Free and Appropriate Public Education, and it was first established with the Education of All Handicapped Children Act in 1975. However, the definition when it first came about was vague and unreliable, and it lacked detail and accountability. So the Education of All Handicapped Children Act of 1975 became the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in 2004, or better known as IDEA. And this really reflected a cultural shift in the way that we view differences and disabilities in education, and it raised the bar on what constitutes a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, or LRE. Prior to IDEA, there was much less research-based instruction, measurement, and assessment tools that were being utilized in special education. And the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015 requires that all students in the U.S. be taught to high academic standards that allow them to be successful. So kind of through the years, we've seen the standards and the bar be raised for what is expected of special education students and what we know they're able to achieve. And I know in the beginning, when special education students were being identified, there was a lot of segregation. They were being kept away from their mainstream peers as much as possible, and they were being held to really low standards. So these different acts have kind of given them more rights and more, just basically the ability to see that these students can succeed and that they need to be supported and pushed to be successful. And so I got a lot of my information about FAPE and kind of its timeline from a YouTube video that was from one of my former professors, Professor Stephen Cochran. He created a video on the history of disability and special education teachers. And then Kathleen Kahn also, she wrote an article for educationlaw.org, and her article is on the Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson Central School District versus Rowley, and Andrew F. versus Douglas County School District, and how those two major Supreme Court cases kind of gave us the definition and outline of what FAPE is today. So those are the two sources where I got my information about special education law, and was reminded that this is how FAPE came about. Yeah. All right, I look forward to seeing other people's videos.